I think there was a second part to the question, and I think we'll go ahead and ask that question, and I will.
Tweak it just a little bit with
okay, we'll allow for a new question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, with that being said, your economic development initiatives, the city currently gives money to the Chamber of Commerce, the Lake Area Improvement Corporation, and a means to help promote Madison and promote business growth. The Lake Area Improvement Corporation then gets to decide what money it's going to give to local businesses, whether that's existing businesses or new businesses, to help promote their growth. And I've heard some different things about picking winners and losers and drawing certain businesses to town. That is currently happening with our city funds, just through a nonprofit organization that we're giving that money to. So how would you hold the Lake Area Improvement Corporation responsible? How would you help pick the winners and losers? And do you think the city should be even financing any of this again?
I'll try to paraphrase. I'll do my best. The question is, how do you feel, what is your feeling about the funding of the Lake Area Improvement Corporation and how they distribute the monies that they're given from the city, and how should the city be involved in that process? Fair enough? Okay. With that, I'll repeat it again here if I can. First on the list will be Jeremiah, and followed by Pat, Mike, and Nick. And the question is, your comments on funding for the Lake Area Improvement Corporation, how the money they receive from the city is distributed, and how the city could be involved or hold them accountable for the spending of those dollars that they receive. Jeremiah?
That's a long question. I have a pretty short attention span, so I'm just going to ramble for a minute. But the money that goes to Lake Area Improvement Corporation, as I understand it, comes from the bed and booze tax. And the state has some pretty specific things we can do with that money. And as I look around what other communities are doing in the state, virtually everyone has an entity similar to Lake Area Improvement Corporation. So I thought maybe it'd be possible to completely disband it and then reform something that would be exactly the same, but I don't know what we would be getting there. And there's only so many things we can do with that money. So I don't really know, Ashley.
So how do we hold them accountable, Jeremiah?
Well, we need to set some goals for them, and when they don't reach them, then we need to reevaluate what we're doing. Things like this, I understand where you get discouraged because sometimes it looks like we're just pouring money down a black hole, but it seems to be these entities there's virtually one in every community in South Dakota. I don't know if we'd be at an advantage if we eliminated ours.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Next will be Pat, and I'm not sure I can rephrase the question, but it is. All right.
There's a lot of money that the city spends in other entities. There's no question about it. I work in an environment now that I apply for a grant every year to run part of my program. Well, I have to supply a budget and say what I'm going to do with those monies. So the city, in essence, is the same thing that I apply for through the federal government for a grant. It's the same situation. And the people that are applying to us, they're grantees. How are you going to spend the money? What are you going to do when they come to us and ask for $125,000 or whatever figure they come up with? Come with a budget. If you don't have a budget, go home. I want to know where the money's going and how that money is going to be spent. And then I don't believe in saying, okay, we got all the money. Oh, we're going to give it to you. No. I work with drawdowns. I work with drawdowns every year. And they say, okay, we need $25,000 for this project that we have talked about in our budget. Fine, then give them the drawdown. But don't let them play with the money for 150 they're 25,000, we'll do all the interest. And it makes them accountable. Accountability is essential in government. And in many aspects outside this community, in the state, federal level, there is no longer accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Next to answer the question regarding funding to the LAIC and accountability will be Mike.
I guess first off, I will say that as a community, especially the size of Madison, with all of the diverse things that we have going on here, to even think about eliminating a department or a division or a nonprofit group like LAIC would just be very detrimental to our city. You have to have individuals who are dedicated and focused on economic development, not only in Madison, but the area as well. You have to be able to have that. Now, and I think somebody had mentioned about basically any other community across South Dakota, they have economic development offices. There's a reason that they have them, is so that when things happen, we're all busy, city commissioners are busy, city employees are busy. If we have an individual and or, in this case, a board that is responsible for this. Now we have an opportunity here in Madison to have some new leadership with Dwayne leaving, and so that's going to change up some of the dynamics and things as well of that group. Now, as far as the accountability part of it, it is governed by a board, and the board of people are people throughout the community and citizens throughout Madison, and so that's ultimately where a lot of the accountability comes into. Obviously, when anybody comes to the city asking for funds, there's a lot of things that go along with that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. The final candidate to answer this question will be Nick.
First off, with regards to the LAIC, it's a necessary evil. I do not like how many things operate out of there. But through the attraction and retention of businesses, there's a certain degree of secrecy and privacy that is required when you go in, when you're recruiting a business. They're looking for the better deal for the new town, the new market. They don't want to lose what they have. And the city, there is no way for us to go out and recruit them without using a 501c like the LAIC. It is, you do lose oversight of the money. That is my biggest gripe or concern with it. It's tough to gauge what their accomplishments. They have made accomplishments. They've brought great things to town. Many of the things that they've done and brought in have been offset by other businesses closing the doors and leaving. You haven't seen the big spike in employment because the jobs were offset by someone else closing. They are very necessary and they need to continue to be funded. The city can't be responsible for funding everything that they choose to do or giving them the keys to the city, the keys to the checkbook. They're necessary and you need them there. They have to be out there looking and finding the opportunities and working on bringing those businesses to town. But they need to be accountable, and in the past few years that I've seen that I've been on the commission, I have not liked their level of accountability, and I believe with new leadership coming in, it will improve. I really believe it will, and the chamber does a great job.